This podcast is brought to you by the Part of Your Broadway World podcast.
Welcome to the AI Analysis Podcast. Wicked Part 2 is hitting theaters later this month, so we thought we would take you back and look at where it all began, the Wicked novel. It's really quite something, isn't it? How this one book, this really dark, kind of cynical take on Oz, just exploded, became this massive cultural thing, a huge musical, and now these big movies.
It is pretty staggering, and I think for a lot of people listening, maybe you came to it through the musical or you're excited about the films. Understanding where it started is, well, it's key.
Exactly. So we've gathered the sources, Gregory Maguire's original 1995 novel, notes about how the Broadway show got rewritten, and all the latest details we could find on the film adaptations.
Right. And our goal here is really to chart that journey.
Yeah.
From this very adult, very complex book about power, prejudice, and what wicked even means.
All the way to the story we mostly know now. The big, uplifting musical focused on, Elphaba and Glinda's friendship.
Precisely. It's more than just comparing plot points. It's about a fundamental shift in what the story is trying to do. The novel is like this deep, almost academic look at Elphaba Throp's life. It really makes you grapple with difficult ideas about evil, about politics.
Whereas the adaptations, especially the films drawing from the musical, they smooth those edges, make it more about empowerment, maybe hope.
Definitely. It's a deliberate choice for accessibility. Yeah. So what we want to unpack is, what got lost in that translation, what maybe got gained, and what new things are the movies bringing to the table.
Okay, let's start right at the source then, because it sounds like Maguire's Oz is a world away from, Glinda descending in her bubble.
Oh, completely different.
Yeah.
So part one, The Wicked Years, this is Maguire's original, much darker vision.
Okay.
So the novel, technically it's revisionist literature. It takes a story we all know, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and it flips it. Critically re-examines the whole moral setup.
Right. Baum's original story needed a simple villain. The
Right.
Wicked Witch of the West, pure evil, end of story.
Exactly. One-dimensional. Maguire's whole project was to take that stereotype and make her, well, sympathetic. To ask, how did she get that label? Why was she called Wicked?
And giving her the name Elphaba. That's from L. Frank Baum's initials, right? LFB.
Spot on, LFB. It's like he's signaling right away, I'm rewriting this history.
And the core isn't really magic, it sounds like. It's more philosophy.
You mentioned the problem of evil.
Absolutely. That's the intellectual heart of the book.
Yeah.
I have to remember, Maguire was writing this in the early 90s, and he was apparently quite affected by some major tragic events happening then, involving young people committing terrible acts.
Okay.
And it got him thinking, is evil something you're born with, like a defect? Or is it something you acquire, something society or your circumstances kind of pushes onto you?
So that's the lens for Elphaba. She's born different, the green skin, everything.
Right. She's an outcast from the start, constantly labeled, pushed away. And the novel really explores this idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You mean if people keep calling you wicked, eventually you might just live up to it.
Yeah.
Or maybe down to it. It pushes that idea hard. If society keeps telling you you're a monster, how long do you fight it before you just say, fine, you want a monster, I'll be your monster?
So it's not just saying she was misunderstood. It's asking if the label itself creates the reality.
Precisely. The Gazette even called it a cautionary tale about how we, as a society, create the villains we fear because we need those simple good versus evil boxes. Elphaba's story isn't really about finding redemption in the way the musical presents it. It's more about her reacting, often quite desperately, to a world that never gave her a fair shot or control over her own identity.
And if the theme is the problem of evil, then the setting, Oz itself, must be pretty dark too. You mentioned totalitarianism.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets really chilling and moves way beyond a children's fantasy. Oz, in the novel, is basically a police state in the making.
Wow.
Maguire delves deep into propaganda, state terrorism. He even pointed out the phonetic echo between Wicked and Hitler. The wizard's rise is modeled on, 20th century dictators.
And how does he do it?
By manufacturing an enemy. He targets the animals, the sentient, talking animals of Oz. He creates this us versus them mentality. And he has his own secret police, the Gale Force, and think SS, to enforce his rule. They're responsible for intimidation, brutality, rounding up animals.
So the Gale Force isn't just some generic guards.
No, they're explicitly sinister. And memorable. She's not just a mean teacher.
Right. In the musical, she's ambitious, manipulative.
In the novel, she's the chief propagandist. She runs the state's messaging machine. She creates these things called quells.
Quells.
Yeah, they're these simplistic, moralistic poems. Basically, state-approved rhetoric designed to shut down critical thinking and justify oppressing the animals. They're plastered everywhere, controlling how people think and talk.
And Elphaba sees this happening.
Instantly. As an outcast herself, she recognizes systemic oppression when she sees it. And when her mentor, Dr. Delamain, is targeted, that pushes her over the edge.
Dr. Delamain, he's the goat professor at Shiz, right? In the musical, he just gets fired, loses his ability to speak.
In the novel, it's far more brutal. He's assassinated by the Gale Force. Murder.
Oh, whoa. Okay, that's a huge difference.
It is. And that is what turns Elphaba from a sort of quiet intellectual dissident into a political radical. It's not just about sticking up for her teacher. It's about reacting to state-sanctioned murder.
So that's when she goes underground.
Yes. She confronts the wizard with Glinda first, trying to reason with him, but he just brushes them off. So Elphaba goes into hiding in the Emerald City and joins an actual underground terrorist group. She starts advocating for direct action, for force against the regime.
Terrorism. Wow.
Yeah, though the book notes she draws a line, she refuses to harm children. But it explicitly frames her actions within that context, using violence to fight state violence. It's incredibly morally gray, something the musical completely steers clear of.
Okay, before we get to that phase, we need to back up to her birth. You mentioned the green skin, but the novel's explanation for it is pretty dark.
It's fundamental to her entire tragic identity. She's born green, sharp teeth, afraid of water, and the reason. Her mother, Melena Throp, the wife of a minister, was drugged by the wizard. He used a green potion.
Drugged, so it wasn't consensual.
Explicitly not. It's portrayed as a sexual assault, and the result is Elphaba, which means the wizard is her biological father.
Right, and that reveal is in the musical too, but the context, that changes everything.
Completely. The musical turns it into, what did you call it? Enthusiastically consensual adultery?
Yeah, that was the phrase used to describe the rewrite.
And that shift, it totally changes the meaning of her green skin. In the musical, it's maybe a quirk, a result of forbidden love, maybe a bit scandalous. In the book, it's the physical mark of violation, of trauma.
It makes her existence inherently tragic from the start.
Absolutely. She's a child of two worlds, Oz, and wherever the wizard came from but belongs to neither. Defined by this horrific event she had no part in, and it poisons her relationship with her family, especially her father, Frexbar, who's clearly repulsed by her.
And then there's her sister, Nesseros, the future Wicked Witch of the East.
Right, and their dynamic is just brutal in the book. Nesseros is born without arms.
Without arms, not mobility issues like the musical.
No, born without arms. But she's incredibly beautiful, deeply religious, and their father absolutely dotes on her, openly preferring her to Elphaba.
Ouch. More rejection for Elphaba.
Exactly. It just fuels her resentment, her sense of being utterly alone. And Nesseros eventually takes over ruling Munchkinland and becomes this sort of religious fanatic, quite totalitarian in her own way. So even at Shiz, when Elphaba meets Glinda, who becomes Glinda, all this family baggage and political tension is simmering underneath.
Okay, so Dr. Dillman's murder radicalizes her. She goes into exile, but there's a big chunk of time there, right? The Fiyero years.
Yes, and this middle section is crucial to the novel's bleakness. Years later, maybe 5 years after leaving Shiz, she runs into Fiyero again, Prince Fiyero Tigelaar.
Now, Fiyero in the musical is this charming, rich, carefree prince.
Not in the book. He's still a prince, but his tribe, the Orjiki, are from an undeveloped region. He's described in ways that are often seen as racially coded. He's at Shiz, trying to get an education to help his people, not just party. He's much more serious, more complex.
Okay.
And when Elphaba reconnects with him, he's married. He has 3 children.
Whoa. So their relationship.
It's an illicit affair. Deeply complicated, fraught with guilt, politically dangerous. It's not the straightforward love triangle of the musical. It's messy, adult, and ultimately incredibly tragic.
A moral failure, really.
A profound one for both of them.
Yeah.
And it ends disastrously. Elphaba makes an attempt on Madame Morrible's life. Right after she leaves Fiyero's hiding place, the Gale Force swoops in and captures him.
And Elphaba blames herself.
Completely. She's consumed by guilt, convinced her actions led directly to his capture and likely torture. She flees again, this time taking refuge in a convent.
A convent? For how long?
7 years.
7 years.
7 years of silence, penance, self-imposed exile. Think about how different that is from the musical's timeline, where things happen much faster. That weight of guilt, that withdrawal, it's just not there on stage.
So what brings her out?
Eventually, she leaves the convent, still burdened by guilt. She actually goes to Keamoko, Fiero's family castle, seeking forgiveness from his wife, Sarima.
Does she get it?
No. Sarima pointedly refuses to forgive her. And Elphaba has a young boy with her by this point, Lear, who she believes is Fiero's son.
Wow, so she's tied to his family, even in tragedy.
Yes. And it's at Keamoko, living in the shadow of Fiero's abandoned family, that she finds the Grimoire,
The spell book.
the legendary spellbook.
Yeah.
In the novel, it's this ancient, incredibly powerful artifact. Finding it, trying to understand it, that's partly how she gains her reputation as a witch. Society labels her, and she sort of grows into it, even as she struggles with the magic itself.
So by the time Dorothy and her house arrive...
Elphaba is a very different character than the one who left Shiz. She's been through political radicalization, terrorism, a tragic affair, immense guilt, years of exile. She's discovered powerful magic she barely understands. She's hardened, complex, deeply scarred.
So Dorothy dropping a house on Nessa Rose isn't just an accident that kicks off the plot.
It's the final trigger, the last brutal straw. Nessa Rose, the Wicked Witch of the East, is dead. And who shows up but Glinda?
Of course.
And Glinda, maybe trying to keep the peace or maybe just being pragmatic, takes Nessa's enchanted silver shoes.
Silver shoes, not ruby slippers.
Silver shoes in the book, yeah. They were Nessa's, but Glinda takes them, maybe fearing they'll cause chaos or civil war in Munchkinland, and gives them to Dorothy, who has no idea what's going on.
And Elphaba finds out.
And she is furious. Those shoes weren't just footwear. They were a family heirloom, potentially powerful, maybe something she felt was rightfully hers. It feels like another betrayal, another thing taken from her.
So the confrontation with Dorothy isn't just about shoes.
Not at all. It's the culmination of everything. She confronts the wizard, too, not just about the shoes, but trying to bargain for Fiero's family, Sarima and the kids, who she still feels responsible for.
And what does the wizard say?
He delivered the final blows. He tells her he had Fiero's family killed, all except one daughter, Nor, whom he kept as a slave.
Oh my God.
And then, the confession. I'm your father. Confirming her parentage, confirming she's tied to this man who represents everything she fought against, confirming she belongs nowhere. That pushes her completely over the edge.
But there's more, right? The ending is even darker.
Yet it doesn't stop there. She makes one last attempt at political revenge. She goes to kill Madame Morrible.
Does she succeed?
She finds Morrible already dead. Maybe natural causes, maybe something else. It's ambiguous. But Elphaba, she snaps. Consumed by rage, denied forgiveness, betrayed by her father, grieving Fiero. She takes her broom and bludgeons the corpse.
She hits the dead body.
Repeatedly. It's a genuinely shocking, visceral moment. It shows she's crossed a line. The trauma, the politics, it's broken something inside her. She's moved beyond political motives into something much darker, more horrifying.
So the famous melting scene almost feels secondary after that.
It's almost tragically mundane, isn't it? Dorothy shows up, offers a simple, naive apology for Nessa's death. And Elphaba, who has been denied any real forgiveness or understanding her whole life, is enraged by this easy sentiment.
And then the water.
She's brandishing her broom, maybe it catches fire, or her skirt catches fire. Dorothy grabs a bucket of water to put it out to save her, and poof, melts her. That lifelong, strange allergy to water. It's almost an anticlimax.
And the political situation, the wizard.
Utter chaos.
Yeah.
Elphaba vanishes. The wizard grabs the green bottle, the potion he used on Milena years ago, and flees Oz in his balloon, literally hours before a coup was planned to overthrow him. He escapes, leaving Oz leaderless and in turmoil.
Wow. Okay. So the novel ends with tragedy, ambiguity, political chaos, and a protagonist who, despite maybe sympathetic origins, commits horrific acts and ultimately fails.
Pretty much, it's bleak. It's complex. It doesn't offer easy answers or neat resolutions. You can see why that might be a tough sell for, say, a big Broadway musical.
Definitely. So how on earth did that become the Wicked we know?
Well, that brings us to part 2, the musical.
Yeah.
From dark fantasy to Broadway spectacle.
Right.
And it really comes down to one person's vision.
Yeah.
Initially. Stephen Schwartz, the composer.
The composer of Godspell, Kippen.
That's him. He apparently read Maguire's novel and became obsessed. He saw the theatrical potential, the drama, the spectacle, but he knew it couldn't be a direct adaptation of that bleak political story.
So he convinced Universal Pictures, who already had film plans, to let him try it as a musical first.
Exactly, which must have been quite a feat, convincing a studio to scrap a movie for a riskier stage show. He argued the story needed music, needed that scale.
And Winnie Holtzman wrote the script, the book for the musical.
Yes, she worked closely with Schwartz, but it wasn't smooth sailing. Their initial tryout run, I think it was in San Francisco, got a pretty lukewarm reception.
Why? Too close to the novel?
Apparently, yes. Still too dark, too complicated, maybe not focused enough on the core relationship. So they did some major rewrites about 3 months worth before it hit Broadway. And that's when the great tonal shift, as you called it, really happened.
Okay, so what got cut? What got changed in that rewrite process?
Basically, anything deemed too controversial or alienating for a mainstream audience, the explicit sexual content, especially Elphaba's conception, the substance abuse that crops up in the novel, the really gritty, morally ambiguous political terrorism plotline.
So Elphaba's origin story had to change dramatically.
Fundamentally, we touched on this. The wizard drugging Milena becomes consensual adultery. The green potion isn't a date rape drug, it's just his favorite drink he shared.
Which makes Elphaba's greenness a result of indiscretion, a quirky accident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not the result of a violation. It immediately makes her more relatable, less burdened by that inherited trauma. You can root for her without that constant underlying horror. It's almost a commercial necessity, really. Audiences connect more easily with a hero who is flawed, but fundamentally innocent of the circumstances of her own birth.
The musical also made a point of connecting more to the 1939 movie, right? Things Maguire ignored.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
They brought back the idea that the Emerald City isn't really emerald. People just wear green glasses. That's classic Baum, which Maguire skipped.
And the shoes?
They became ruby slippers again, visually, even if the script technically calls them silver slippers. It was a nod to the iconic movie image. It felt like they were trying to bridge Maguire's world with the Oz everyone already loved from the film.
Okay, plot-wise. Act 1 of the musical feels the most familiar compared to the book.
Definitely. Act 4 covers her arrival at Shiz, meeting Glinda, their rivalry turning into friendship, Dr. Dilliman facing prejudice, the trip to see the wizard, his corruption revealed. It hits many of the same beats.
But then comes defying gravity. Elphaba makes her stand and flies off.
And after that moment, the musical basically, as they say, threw the book out the window.
Really? That dramatic a shift?
Pretty much. Act 2 takes enormous liberties. Some key moments are still there. Nessa Rose's death, the flippers, Elphaba capturing Dorothy, the reveal of her parentage, but the context, the motivations, the outcomes are all radically altered.
Like the whole Fiyero relationship.
Completely condensed and changed. The long, messy, multi-year affair from the book becomes this intense, immediate, passionate romance that becomes a central conflict point, especially between Elphaba and Glinda.
But the biggest change, the one that really defines the musical's hopeful tone, has to be the ending. Elphaba doesn't die.
That's the core artistic decision that separates the musical from the novel. The novel demands tragedy. The musical aims for uplift. Her death by water is even kind of joked about, acknowledged as this weird, maybe unbelievable myth.
So what happens instead?
She fakes her death. She realizes, or the musical has her realize, that fighting the wizard's kind of evil with more wickedness, with open warfare, won't work. So she sacrifices her reputation, lets the world believe she's dead.
Which allows Glinda to step up.
Exactly. Glinda, who has been genuinely changed for the better by her friendship with Elphaba, can now become the leader Oz needs. She takes on the moral authority, and crucially, this allows Elphaba to escape secretly.
And reunite with Fiyero, who also survives.
Yes. Fiyero's fate is another massive change.
Okay, let's talk about Fiyero. We mentioned he's very different from the book's version, the complex, potentially racially coded prince from a struggling tribe.
Right. The musical simplifies him completely. He becomes this generic, super rich, charming, slightly shallow aristocrat. All that political backstory, the connection to his people gone. He exists mainly as the romantic lead, the guy Elphaba and Glinda initially compete for.
It loses a lot of depth, doesn't it?
It does. It's a classic adaptation choice.
Yeah.
Streamline complexity for broader appeal and focus on the romance.
And his ending. In the book, he's captured, tortured, likely killed, maybe becoming the scarecrow in Elphaba's guilty imagination.
The musical makes that literal and heroic. Fiyero, now fully committed to Elphaba, tries to help her escape the guards, the Gale Force. He gets captured.
But Elphaba saves him.
She casts a spell. It's from the Grimoire, a spell to protect him. But it has unintended consequences. It saves his life, but transforms him into the Scarecrow immortal, unable to feel pain, brainless, but alive.
So they do get a happy ending, sort of.
They do. He helps her fake her death, and they escape Oz together at the very end, unseen by anyone else. It provides that emotional resolution, that sense that love conquered the terrible circumstances.
Okay, now we need to talk about Nessaros and Bach, because the musical changes there. They introduced some problems, didn't they? Particularly with Nessa.
This is a really significant and, frankly, troubling divergence. In the novel, remember, Nessa Rose is born without arms. Her issues stem from her intense religious piety turning into tyranny.
Right. But the musical makes her disability different.
Yes, she uses a wheelchair due to mobility issues. But the bigger issue is her motivation. It's completely shifted away from religious zealotry. In the musical, her entire character revolves around her unrequited love for Bach and her misery over her situation.
And she becomes governor of Munchkinland.
Yes, and she uses that power primarily to try and force Bach to stay with her, becoming quite tyrannical out of sheer unhappiness and obsession.
That feels uncomfortable. It plays into some harmful stereotypes about disability, doesn't it?
It really does. It links her villainy directly to her disability and her perceived romantic rejection because of it. There's this trope where disabled characters are often portrayed as bitter, manipulative, or needing a cure to be happy or good. The musical leans right into that.
Especially when Elphaba enchants the shoes.
Exactly. Yeah. Elphaba gives her the power to walk. And Nessa's immediate reaction isn't just joy, it's, Bach, look, now we can be together properly. It explicitly ties her physical state to her emotional state and her actions. The book's Nessa was awful and had a disability. The musical suggests she's awful because of it, which is a very different and more problematic message.
And Bach, he gets short shrift, too.
Totally. In the novel, he's actually quite an interesting minor character involved in animal rights alongside Elphaba and Fiyero at Shiz. He has some intellectual depth.
Wait, in the musical?
He's just the guy with a hopeless crush on Glinda, who gets stuck looking after Nessa Rose. His entire storyline is about this unrequited love.
Which leads to him becoming the Tin Man.
Yes. Nessa, in her desperation to make him love her, tries a spell from the Grimoire. It backfires badly, targeting his heart. Elphaba steps in to try and save his life, and the only way is to turn him into tin. So, again, a complex political theme from the book Dehumanization gets reduced to a romantic mishap.
Okay, one last point on the musical's changes. The magic. The wizard and the Grimoire.
Right. The musical clarifies things the novel left ambiguous. It firmly establishes the wizard as having no magic at all. He's a complete phony, just like in the original Baum books in the 1939 movie.
Whereas the novel hinted he might have some real power.
It left the door open, the musical slams it shut, he's all smoke and mirrors.
And the Grimoire, the big spell book.
Like, it's downgraded significantly. In the novel, finding the Grimoire is like the wizard's entire motivation for being in Oz. It's this ancient source of immense power he desperately wants. It drives the political plot.
But in the musical?
It's just a powerful spellbook. Elphaba seems to have access to it relatively easily, uses it for key spells like saving Fiyero and Bach. The wizard doesn't seem particularly obsessed with obtaining it. His motives become more about maintaining his fraudulent position through political maneuvering, not acquiring ultimate magical power.
So, summarizing the musical, it took the core characters, focused intensely on the Elphaba-Glinda friendship and the Elphaba-Fiyero romance, smoothed out nearly all the political darkness and moral ambiguity, injected familiar Oz lore, and engineered a much more hopeful, emotionally satisfying ending.
That's a perfect summary. It chose spectacle, romance, and empowerment over the novel's cynicism and political critique. And obviously that choice resonated hugely with audiences.
Okay, let's take a quick break here.
Hi, this is Bill Farmer, you know, the voice of Goofy and other characters. You gotta watch the Part of Your Broadway World podcast right here. It's gonna be fun.
All right, we're back. We've traced the journey from Gregory Maguire's dark political novel to the massively successful, uplifting Broadway musical. Now let's turn to the latest chapter, the two-part film adaptation directed by John M. Chu, focusing on what we know about Part 1.
Right. And the films aren't just a straight filming of the stage show. Chu and the team seem to be using the medium of film to expand the world, deepen some themes, and tweak the storytelling, while still being very much based on the musical.
So what are some of the key additions or changes we're seeing? I know there's a new character.
Yes, Miss Cottle. She wasn't in the book or the stage show. Played by Keala Settle.
And what's her role at Shiz?
She seems to function as a sort of buffer for Madame Morrible initially. She's introduced as the headmistress, and the first thing we see her do is fawn over Nessaros while being quite defensive and dismissive towards Elphaba.
So she takes some of the immediate heat off Morrible.
Exactly. By having Miss Cottle deliver some of the early negative interactions or bad news, like when Dr. Dillamond is eventually let go, it allows Morrible to maintain this facade of being Elphaba's champion and friend for longer. It makes her eventual betrayal potentially more impactful on screen.
Interesting. And the film also makes a point of showing Elphaba actually becoming popular at shows.
Yeah, this is a subtle but significant shift from the stage show. In the musical, Glinda tries to help her, but Elphaba largely remains an outsider, even after the Ozdust ballroom scene.
But the film shows it working.
It seems so. Reports suggest Glinda succeeds. Elphaba wins over the crowd at the dance, and afterwards, we see other students actually being friendly to her, accepting her. She achieves a level of popularity.
Why make that change?
It raises the stakes for Elphaba later. When she decides to defy gravity and fight the wizard, she's not just giving up a potential future, she's sacrificing the social acceptance she just gained. It makes her choice more dramatically costly.
Okay. And even how she gets into shiz is slightly different.
Oh, Queek, yeah. In the film, her main reason for going to shiz initially is just to help Nessa get settled, at their father's request. She isn't planning to enroll herself.
So how does she end up staying?
Madame Morble sees her display magic instinctively, powerfully, and then pulls strings to get her enrolled, immediately sort of claiming credit for discovering this talent. The film apparently includes scenes of their private tutoring sessions, too.
Which reinforces Morble seeing her as a tool.
Precisely. It underlines Morble's manipulative intent right from the start, setting her up as that friend who is truly a foe, even more clearly than the stage show sometimes does.
What about the romance? Elphaba and Fiyero.
They're giving that more screen time to develop, it seems.
Yeah.
Their first meeting, their meet-cute, happens earlier in the film.
Before the big dance number.
Yeah. Fiyero apparently arrives at shiz, all swagger on his horse, and bumps into Elphaba first, before meeting Glinda or anyone else. It sets up their opposites attract dynamic right away, him being surprised she's not instantly charmed. It gives their connection more time to breathe before everything gets complicated.
That makes sense for film. Now, one really intriguing addition is making Elphaba's ability to see the future more explicit.
Yes. This was always just a slight hint in the musical and the lyrics of The Wizard and I. She sings about visions haunting. But it could just be ambition. The film makes it a definite power.
Like she has actual premonitions.
Exactly. She senses something bad is happening in Oz, and she apparently has a clear vision of Dr. Dillamond in danger, locked in a cage.
How does that change things?
It makes her decision to act against the wizard feel more like a destiny, a prophetic duty maybe. Less purely reactive anger, and more driven by this foreknowledge of the coming oppression. It adds another layer to her motivations.
And speaking of oppression, the film is apparently emphasizing the animal rights angle more strongly, too.
It seems to be a major focus, yeah. Trying to bring back some of the weight from the novel, perhaps, without the novel's violence. The film visually establishes that animals were respected scholars, part of shiz society.
And the song Something Bad.
It's reportedly expanded significantly. It's not just Dillamond singing. It features multiple talking animals expressing their fear, realizing they need to flee Oz while they still can speak. It really drives home that an entire group is being systematically silenced and marginalized by the wizard's regime. It gives visual weight to Maguire's themes of propaganda and prejudice.
The world building seems deeper overall, like the expansion of one short day.
Right. That number, which is already a big Emerald City tour, apparently includes a whole new section called Wisdom Mania.
Wisdom Mania.
Yeah, it's described as this big, visually spectacular sequence that delves into the origins of the Grimoire, where it came from, these ancient wise ones, and how it was prophesied that someone would come who could read it.
Which obviously plays into the wizard's arrival.
Exactly. It gives his presence a sort of false legitimacy, makes his deception even deeper. And apparently this sequence is also where they slot in cameos for Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, the original Broadway Elphaba, and Glinda. A nice nod for the fans.
Speaking of nods, the film seems packed with references to the 1939 Wizard of Oz movie, more than the stage show.
Definitely seems that way. Chu is really leaning into making this feel like a visual prequel to that classic film. Little things, like hearing a snatch of the melody from Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead.
And bigger things, too.
Yeah, like Elphaba rescuing the lion cub, who we assume is the future cowardly lion. She uses magic, apparently involving poppies to make people sleep, then bikes away with the cub in a basket.
Like Miss Gulch with Toto.
Exactly. It's a very direct visual homage. And they even show the origin of the yellow brick road being paved, with the wizard unveiling his vision for the Oz of tomorrow and Elphaba and Glinda actually helping him pick the color. It weaves them right into the iconography we know.
Even the choreography is being rethought for the screen, like Dancing Through Life.
Yeah, that number apparently starts in the shiz library now, with bookshelves spinning like a vortex. Chu calls it a tornado wheel effect before it moves to the Ozdust ballroom.
And the ballroom itself is different.
It's envisioned as more of an underground club. maybe like a speakeasy, which actually ties back into the expanded animal rights theme. It's presented as one of the few places where animals might still be allowed to gather or perform as things get worse. Adds a little political subtext to the party.
Okay, so when you line them all up, novel, musical, film, you really see the evolution.
You really do. You have Maguire's 1995 novel, dense, political, morally gray, ending in tragedy and chaos. Elphaba is a victim of trauma and oppression who arguably becomes monstrous herself. It asks hard questions about society.
Then the musical takes the core relationship, adds incredible songs, ramps up the romance and spectacle, and gives us an uplifting, emotionally satisfying ending where friendship and love triumph and Elphaba gets to survive.
Right. It prioritizes hope and empowerment. And now the film seems to be taking the musical's framework and using the tools of cinema to make it even more visually spectacular, expand the world building, deepen the emotional connections slightly, and really cement its place as a prequel to the Oz we know from 1939.
So fans of the novel might miss that deep political stuff, the ambiguity.
They almost certainly will. The novel offers a kind of intellectual and moral challenge that the musical and films, by design, don't aim for.
But the films look set to deliver what the musical promised. A huge, visually stunning experience focused on that powerful bond between the two witches, framed within a hopeful narrative.
Exactly. The novel asked, essentially, how does an innocent person become wicked under societal pressure? The musical and films seem to ask, can someone labeled wicked find their own goodness, forge meaningful connections, and maybe even find hope? They're fundamentally different questions reflecting different storytelling goals.
Which brings us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. We've seen this story transform dramatically, from that dark novel born of cynicism about politics and prejudice, to this empowering musical about friendship, and now this massive film spectacle. Does this evolution tell us something about what kind of stories we want, or maybe need, right now?
It's a fascinating question. The novel forced readers to confront really uncomfortable truths about how societies create others, about the seductive nature of power, about how good intentions can curdle. It didn't offer easy answers.
Whereas the musical, and likely the films, offer comfort, resolution, the idea that individual goodness and strong relationships can overcome even deeply corrupt systems.
Perhaps. Are we sometimes drawn more to the spectacle, the emotional uplift, the story where redemption is possible, even for the Wicked Witch? Does that kind of narrative feel more necessary or appealing than diving back into the novel's unresolved political bleakness? It's definitely something to think about as you watch these new films.
It really is. The sheer endurance of Wicked in all its forms is proof that this story, however it's told, tacks into something powerful.
Absolutely. Whether it's the challenging questions of the book or the soaring anthems of the stage, Elphaba's journey continues to resonate.
We hope you enjoyed our analysis today. Let us know in the comments which version of Wicked is your favorite. We'll see you next time.